You are listening to the Cinderbury Chronicles. Journey with us into the world of Copper Hollow.
Welcome to Copper Hollow, a rundown borough in the vast industrial city of Cinderbury. This is our third episode. This podcast is chronological, so be sure you're all caught up. Grab a cuppa and settle in. I'm P. Rose, narrator and voice of Amelia, Lily and Irene in this episode.
And I'm Orphin, and I'll be the voice of the Luddite preacher, Albert and Paul this episode.
Chapter 2, Worlds Apart. The Right Orphanage stands for the diversity and well-being of automatons. In the face of growing poverty and persecution, will you stand with us to protect your mechanical brothers and sisters? Auto-labour legislation, post-death labour clauses, and misinformation on automatons' role in society is casting a shadow across our communities. Now, more than ever, we need your support. All donations, no matter how humble, are greatly appreciated. So too is your vote for pro-auto humanitarian representatives in local and national elections. But above all, be kind to your fellows, regardless of whether their bodies are mechanical. Appeal flyer for the Right Orphanage, written by Ada Wright. A black enamel steam engine pulls into Steel Edge Station with a squeal in the morning haze. Amelia watches as the long train comes to a stop. The cars are set in colour: cardinal red, periwinkle blue and moss green. The moss green cars are by far the worst, their paint peeling, showing the rusted metal underneath. Amelia and Lily step onto the last moss green car, showing their ticket stubs to a groggy inspector. As usual, they have to stand. In fact, it is so crammed they are squished up against the damp, grimy windows. The carriage is a veritable sardine can of blue-collar commuters and doesn't smell much better. Amelia doesn't mind too much though, as the window gives her a good view of Cinderbury to occupy her time. She had long since learned to breathe through her mouth while using Cinderbury Rail. As the train leaves the station, they watch the city come to life. Suck-cake chimneys wake up and metal carrier pigeons take to the sky, carrying priority mail, immune to the thick pollution. They take in the view as the train approaches a rusted red bridge. Below the drain riverbed that was once the River Barron now holds makeshift houses that were built along its banks. Amelia looks out towards the city, where imposing skyscrapers are silhouetted against the sky, barely visible through the smog. They are one city but worlds apart. They roll past housing estates, watching as wives hang out the washing and husbands step outside for their first cigarette of the day. Automatons trudge through industrial estates delivering packages. The train commutes through the copper district, stopping every few minutes to let hordes of people off and on. Young boys stand in the train stations, hollering at passers-by with the day's headlines, trying to outsell their competitors. The chug of the train makes it hard to hear the complaints of Amelia's fellow passengers as they squeeze past her. People are packed in so tightly that Amelia stands on her tiptoes, gasping for a fresh breath of air. But the air dries out her throat, she chokes, and she has no room to bend over to clear it. She stumbles out of the train at the next stop, coughing and hoping for a fresh breath, only to inhale soot and dirt, the fine, acrid air Cinderbury is known for. Lily quickly jumps off after her, trying not to get lost in the mass of people. Amelia looks up at the familiar old sign that reads Copper Hollow. They navigate through the torrent of people in the station. She and Lily push through the crowd, breaking into a circle of delinquents. In front of them stands a preacher on a crate. His eyes fall on Lily, glaring at her with contempt.
Automatons have robbed you of your livelihoods! They're criminals and miscreants! There one stands, entitled, no respect, no decency!
He shouts to the crowd, pointing at Lily. Amelia grabs her wrist, pulling her towards the exit. Oh, get over yourself! she calls loudly over the bustle of the station, rolling her eyes at the overzealous nutter. The preachers have become a lot more prominent in the poorer districts over the last few years. She blames the factories. If they would just hire people and stop being so stingy, maybe these nutters wouldn't have a following. They make their way out of the station, down the steps to the streets. "Don't listen to those lunatics," she tells Lily, as they walk down the road towards the orphanage. "Oh, don't worry. I've met their kind before. I'm well used to it," Lily says, giving her a sad smile. Amelia grimaces. "Yeah, people like that seem more and more common these days." As they walk, Amelia notices that the streets seem different. Children walk in gangs, people talk in hushed tones, and there is an inordinate amount of men wearing leather braces atop crisp white shirts. She's careful to look dead ahead and not make eye contact. The orphanage comes into view, towering over the nearby buildings. Most of its smokestacks stand high and unused. Metal clashes with brick and the windows are black with soot. The pair walk up the orphanage steps to the old factory doors. The bottom of her boot hits off an uneven step, making her trip. She catches herself on the low brick wall as Lily grabs her coat. "Thanks. We've been meaning to get these fixed," Amelia mumbles, red filling her cheeks. She knocks on the front door, Lily staying close to her, hands clasped. No answer. They wait a moment. It's not unusual for her aunt to be distracted by her work. She knocks a second time before she retrieves a key from her coat pocket, giving Lily a reassuring look. One of the large doors creaks open, leading into a stately old hall. A dusty red rug covers a cracked marble floor. A matching grand staircase stands to the right side of the room, leading to balconies that wrap around 4 floors. Lily looks up at the grand hall in wonder, old oil portraits looking back at her. Usually Amelia is met with some scene, a new invention perhaps, or Paul diligently maintaining the old structure. Today she is met with silence. "Auntie Ada? Albert? Blinky?" she calls. Nothing. She passes her lips. "Why don't you sit in the parlour? Make yourself at home. I'll get Ada," she suggests, smiling and indicating to a door on her right. Lily nods and goes into the parlour, tentatively taking a seat on the antique leather settee. Amelia starts up the stairs, dust billowing in the air as she hits each step with her leather-buckled boots. As she gets to the top, she notices Blinky, his small mechanical body leaning against the dark peeling wallpaper. She makes her way over to him. "Blinky?" she asks softly, trying to get him to unfurl. He refuses, curled up as much as his small metal body will allow him. "Blinky, where is everyone?" He shakes his head and points down the hallway. She hesitantly leaves the childlike butt. She turns the corner and notices a pair of familiar automatons outside of her aunt's bedroom. "What's going on?" she calls. Paul, a larger, blocky bot, with pipes for arms, and wearing rough blue overalls, moves towards her. A gruff voice comes from the bot's speaker.
"Albert's locked himself in. He won't tell us what's going on."
She sighs and her shoulders relax. "He's probably giving Ada a lecture. I'd best give her an out before she dies of old age and turns into an automaton herself," she says jokingly. "Oh, by the way, I brought a new arrival with me. Her name's Lily. She's a bit nervous. Maybe you could show her around, Paul? And I'm sure Ada could do with a cup of tea as well." She looks over his shoulder to Irene, a bot with a sleek appearance, equal parts industrial and domestic, with white enamel painted skin. "Of course, lovey!" Irene exclaims. She zooms forward, wheels protruding from her feet, her button-down blue dress fluttering as she glides past Amelia. Banging and clanking ensue not long after. Paul runs after her as her voice calls out, "I'm fine, don't mind me, I'll get up." Amelia knocks on the door.
"Good gracious, for the last time, leave us be,"
A deep, booming voice bellows. "It's me, Albert. Irene and Paul are gone. Let me in." She leans her hand against the doorframe, looking down at the mottled grey carpet.
"Amelia, don't you have a job? You could have warned me you were visiting. It's rude to show up unannounced.
He calls through the door. She rolls her eyes, used to her grandfather's grumblings. Well, I knocked, and no one answered the door.
We are not prepared to receive you right now, so back to work with you, young lady.
She sighs. Oh, that's fine. You won't mind if I borrow your records on my way out? The sound of clanking comes from inside, followed by muttering. The door unlocks and opens a crack. The remarkably human face of an elder automaton peeks through. He has a metal beard and short hair of thin copper strands, the sort you find in delicate electronics. His skin is not unlike the storied leather of an antique settee, and he has a pair of thin round glasses sitting upon a long, snobbish nose.
This is not the time for your games, Amelia.
He sneers. Let me in, she demands. He shakes his head at her.
Now is not the time, Amelia.
He begins to close the door. Before he can close it, Amelia bursts through.
Good grief, girl! There's no way for a lady to behave. Did your parents teach you no manners?
He states, his slender frame staggering upright. She doesn't hear him. Her feet bring her to the bed, her knees weak. She sits on the edge of the worn, starched sheets, grabbing her aunt's limp, lifeless hand. When did this happen? She croaks. That was chapter 2 of Copper Hollow. Hope you enjoyed it. This is part of a podcast series where we record the audiobook, where you get to be the first ones to listen for the wonderful price of free.
So wow, that was a bit harrowing. Ada's dead already before we even meet her.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for the reader because we have such a build up of the character of Ada and not getting to know who she is. It's kind of devastating, but there's a little bits here and there, and as you go on, there will still be little bits here and there of Ada knowing who Ada is through the characters that we see, but. Obviously, Amelia and Larkin look up to Ada so much, as we saw in the last chapter, and to have her dead is such a blow to both of them. And obviously, poor Lily as well, who's hoping to go to this, there's this wonderful woman who can fix all her problems, and she's dead.
She's dead, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of considerations. I mean, one, we really struggled with this a little bit because it's hard to have a major character death without the reader knowing who that character is. So hopefully we've tried to build her up in context of different bits of the way she comes in and out of the story and little bits just left behind and how the other characters see her. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, I feel like one of the things that, killing off a character so quickly and you don't even know them yet. Obviously this is a bit of an instigating bit for some of the story, right? This is kind of what the point
Major
is.
instigate. I mean, that's why it's there. Ideally, we would have never have done this, but this was core to how the story evolved.
Exactly, yeah. And, so Copper Hollow was originally going to be a game that was this woman who takes over her family robotics factory thing because her aunt died, and there's it's like a murder mystery type thing. That was originally the thing, and it just evolved.
It was like robots versus mafia or something.
It was called engineer. It was called engineer versus mafia.
That was it.
That was the original. So for those, I assume nobody knows because I don't think we mentioned it. We met doing game design, and we proceeded to not release any games because game design's hard.
Yeah,
it's just so much work. Honestly,
sucks.
I mean, I will say I did make some mobile games, but
you made some pretty good games. Yeah,
I wouldn't say. Little Survivors was probably the best one.
Yeah, it was very, very cute. I mean, the art style was extremely strong.
Oh, thank you. That took a long time. Yeah, I think I still have some pictures from that. Anyway, so it was always the death of the aunt, even when it was a game that had almost nothing to do with this idea.
As I said, this is how core it was to the story and the way that it involved, that was one of the original elements of the seed of this story, which was a totally different project.
Exactly. So we couldn't quite get rid of it because it wouldn't make sense for the narrative.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, while it's not ideal to have a character die so that like the reader has no frame of reference for who Ada is, so it's not very impactful for the reader necessarily. Again, hopefully in context it will prove, but it does instigate a lot of the plot. And it is something that happens that's kind of an immediate hook in the story.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have the death of Ada, but there's a couple of other things that came up when we were writing this. And so one of the things we did was we went on this website called Critique Circle, and we got critiques of the first few chapters. So in Critique Circle, one of the things that was mentioned was that we might be being a little bit sexist. And this came up because of one section where we say, in describing the world, wives hang out the washing and husbands step out for their first cigarette of the day. But the truth is, the sexism is kind of the point. We were really...
Yeah, this is the point, yeah.
We wanted to be able to comment on this. We wanted the world to be a little bit sexist so that we could talk about the problems in our reality as well.
Yeah, in both our past, but also our present. Yeah, 100%. I think there's just so much that people don't get about prejudice, racism, sexism, because if you're going to address it, if you sanitize it and take it out of the world, it seems like, great, oh, we've gotten rid of the controversy, that's fantastic. But you're actually just ignoring it and not really processing it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I've mentioned this 100 times to Finn, but there's this, so if you are a fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender, you may have watched the Netflix edition, and I know some people really like it, but I was kind of horrified by it. And one of my problems is there's this character, and he is sexist, and his sexism is kind of like a character arc for him. He learns that his sexism is wrong. He's kind of the butt of the joke for his sexism. He grows as a character and becomes less sexist. But in the Netflix adaptation, they decided to take out any sexist remarks that this character might make. And it kind of just flattens the whole thing. He doesn't have that character arc, so then he doesn't have the same relationships with the other characters. He isn't the butt of the joke anymore. He isn't the silly kind of idiot guy. He's so serious, and everything he does is to protect his sister. And then his sister, who was the one actually looking after everyone, doesn't really get to be her character anymore. And so many of the characters are almost... They have their character and like the things that they do and the reasons that we liked them almost taken away just to try and not be sexist. But the original work wasn't sexist in the first place.
Like, you actually have to have conflict in order to have a good story. And if you remove the conflict or censor the conflict, and in this case, the conflict is this guy's he's a bit backward, he's a bit misogynist, he's a kid who's like underestimating women, is what you're saying. Yeah, so it's like so if you just remove that and have him well behaved from the beginning, that character is no longer growing.
There's no character arc to be had. Like, that's it, exactly. So like, there's this thing where it's important that we bring up these perhaps negative traits that we experience in our world so that we can discuss them and comment on them, and to see how the characters in the world deal with these issues, because it then allows, like you said, the conflict to happen. And then when the conflict happens, we actually have story, and without the conflict, there's not really much to do.
There's no story, yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think also there's another big problem with this, outside of the like fictional realm, where we lean into like historical fiction or just any reference to real world events, is like if you have a character set in the past and either the world is not racist, sexist, or has some prejudice, or the main characters don't, you're actually doing a disservice when people will watch that film and not understand the context and not understand, like, if you take a World War II film and you just cast the Allies as absolutely amazing, they're not sexist at all, and they're not they're not racist at all. And don't get me wrong, World War II Allies, there's a lot of heroes among that cohort of people. But if you just behave like they were perfect human beings, I really think it eliminates the context that you should have when consuming history or fiction.
I agree, and I think this might be happening in some media, like, you know, Avatar: The Last Airbender was an example of that. But there's been kind of, I think, sometimes a flattening of the stories that we tell to try and make people seem perfect rather than let them be people, right? And if somebody's perfect, they're probably not that interesting, to be honest. Like,
absolutely.
The interest of a character is often in their flaws, and it's how they function. And if you remove those flaws, because a flaw is just like, you can have a character trait that's positive but has a negative side. Most of them are two things, you know? So like, somebody might be, let's say somebody's a perfectionist and they do really, really great stuff, but they don't often do the stuff because they're too worried about getting it wrong. So, you know, there's these different qualities that like, it can be a good thing in one light and a bad thing in another. And that, but that is also a way that person functions, and that's how that character functions. So then that gives them, that makes you understand how they work and why they do the things they do, right?
And often people are full of contradictions. You know, it's kind of like the Enlightenment thinkers who are founding fathers in the Americas, you know, for the USA. Like, you have somebody like Thomas Jefferson, who's, you know, a very well-regarded figure in history, had a big influence in a lot of ways that we think about the Enlightenment, and certainly the American Constitution was ahead of its time. A lot of principles that were in it have totally changed our life. I mean, here in Ireland, that document had a big impact on Irish independence and our country. Like, but he owned slaves. Like, he was a legit slave. And like, I see it here. He enslaved more than 600 men, women, and children.
Is he the one? No, I might be completely wrong on this, but he might have had like what's called a smart home of slaves, where he had them all hiding in the walls and like did the thing. So his house felt like a smart home, but it was just slaves walking in the corridors and stuff.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
Yeah. Anyway.
But the whole point of this is that there's a figure, and you can turn around and say, oh, Thomas Jefferson, awful person, hate him. But I'm saying you can also recognise that he's part of the Enlightenment, and the Enlightenment has had a lot of good impacts. It's like a lot of early suffragettes as well were quite exclusionary when it came to people of colour and other groups of women that didn't fit the mould of a lot of generally it was a lot of suffrage started with aristocratic women who had the time to actually do it and to protest. And then you had working class women that were running different outfits or parallel. But you had a lot of flaws among those early people who you would definitely categorise as people who did great things.
Exactly, yeah. People are complex, and we need to make sure that we don't flatten them too much.
Yeah. Speaking
of this, complex characters, we have a moment where we talk about, there's a preacher that accosts Lily. And the thing about the preacher is that we have him being quite rude and horrible, but you can see that he has a crowd around him. People are really listening to this kind of rhetoric, which is a thing within the whole story that automatons are quite looked down upon because of the way that they work for these companies, and these companies basically use them as slave labour, right? Like they give a stipend to their family, but automatons are essentially a way to gain immortality. But these people give over their afterlife, let's say, the rest of their immortal life, as long as they can be automatons, to these companies for a small stipend to keep their family fed, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the automatons, there's a double-edged sword happening here. Yeah, like this Luddite preacher is undoubtedly a bigot.
Yes.
I mean, actually a bigot that parallels so many of the bigots in our current world in this present time. And pointing to an other, in this case automatons, as the source of people's problems. But the truth is double-edged. So on the one hand, you have the automatons who are basically when they die, they're getting they're either volunteering for or being forced into contracts whereby they have to work as these slaves for the rest of their lives, now immortal lives, and to support their family. But so they have very little choice. They're largely the victims, but you can also see that then has robbed a job from somebody who is your regular worker, or a lot of people are not getting work. As well. Trying to feed their family. So that's why the prejudice has been put on these automatons. And and that kind of suits the factory owners in a sense, because at least if you're somebody who's running this business, you're not getting the flack. You can just push it off on the automatons.
Yeah, the automatons are getting a bad time. The unemployed people who can't get a job are getting a bad time. And the factory owners are just having it easy because they're mad at each other rather than mad at the people who are making this system, you know?
Mm-hmm. Which, it's just classic. And of course, that's what's happening a lot. I mean, this mirrors a lot of the immigration debate.
Yeah.
And like there are fair points, but most of the immigration debate is about designating an other to put society's problems on.
Exactly.
There are legit points, but most of it is in bad faith, and they just want to have two sides fighting each other, and all the problems of say crime, or say why you don't earn as much as you used to, or didn't have as good a quality of life as you used to. Oh, it's all these people coming in and lowering the cost of doing labour. So
don't look at the man behind what is it, behind the head, the big floating head of the Wizard of Oz. That's what I'm trying to think of. I just absolutely blanked on that. So basically what's happening is like, oh, look at the immigrants. Don't look at the people who have all the money.
Yeah, and it's in this world, it's like, look at the automatons. Don't look at, don't think about the factory owners and the fact that they could employ more people living. And we hear this. This is why Amelia thinks that they should just employ more people at the factories. Now, of course, the factory owners have their own reasons for wanting automatons. There's always a chase for profit and cutting out people, but it's pretty evil what they're doing.
Speaking of automatons, so we see a few automatons in this chapter. One of them is Amelia's great-great-grandfather, Albert. So he is different.
And he's a very different automaton, yes.
So there are these kind of automatons called elder automatons, and they are people who, rather than being like financially forced into giving up their afterlife, let's say.
Yeah, they're not contracted.
They choose to do this, or it's like something that has been asked of them and they get the choice to do this because either that they are known for having a great intellect, or they just have enough money to be able to do this themselves.
Yeah, they're just stonking rich, absolutely. This is just an immortality scheme. It's very similar to the current ideas of uploading your mind digitally, like digitizing your mind to live forever.
But we wanted to kind of stay away from the whole digital stuff because we wanted to keep that like kind of stuff separate to...
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a core of a lot of what we've written, is to avoid... Because we could have set this in, say, a cyberpunk setting or a science fiction setting of some near future or far future, but to keep it grounded and talk about exactly what we're talking about with... these class divides, we decided to go away from digital because it's so tied up. I mean, and we're going to get into AI and the problems with this. So we wanted to avoid a lot of that debate and talk about the humanity.
Yeah, exactly. We wanted it to be about the real questions behind it, behind these ideas, without complicating it with like things that we want to do in the future because this is such a different kind of technology. So Albert is like this father figure of the rights, and he has been doing so much work for the rights, and we can see he's kind of a stuffy old git, really.
Yeah.
And that, like, he really doesn't want to tell Amelia the truth because he's not very good at emotions.
Yeah, I mean, there's a combination of things happening with... We don't know what the hell Albert's up to here.
Yeah.
Like, it's really not clear what Albert's up to here, but clearly he is hiding Ada's death, or doesn't know how to deal... Either he doesn't know how to deal with it, or he has some role in it that we don't yet know.
And as we go forward, we'll see more mirroring between Amelia and Albert. We can see the hereditariness of it, but Albert is just this larger than life character in the Wright family, because he's all like, he has lived for so long, he is almost of a godly status in that way. That like he has always been there, you know, he has seen so many Wrights come and go. He's someone you're not really supposed to question, but Amelia is willing to be stubborn in this moment.
Yeah, I think Albert is this really authoritative character that doesn't get the respect he demands or deserves maybe from Amelia, and as we'll find out, Ada and just the rights, other rights in general. He's really a booming presence.
Yeah. It's questionable how much he deserves. He definitely deserves a lot of respect, but also he can probably push it a little bit far sometimes. But that's kind of his character, and you'll get to know him further. But he's not the only automaton we met today. There's a couple extra. What I want to say about the automatons that we met, you know, we met Blinky, we met Irene, we met Paul, and these characters are like part of the Wright family essentially now, because they've been in the orphanage for so long. So the orphanage takes in automatons who need to find a place in the world, and tries to find them somewhere that isn't going to exploit them so terribly as maybe big corporations would. But some of them, like the ones that we see here, actually stay with the family either due to like just finding a really good fit and role within the family, or because there is something about them that doesn't make them good for a different place to live. Like, the Wrights are very caring of automatons, and not everybody is as understanding as the Wrights. And so, for example, Blinky, he is a child that was turned into an automaton, and this is kind of a horrific thing to do, and he's not the only child. But and so they couldn't bring themselves to find him a new home, because the family lineage goes on so long. People can be around, like the automatons can be around much longer than the people can be around. So the Wrights keep it on as part of the legacy.
Absolutely.
So there has been an incident that we want to bring up. I made a video recently on TikTok that we have an AI copycat.
Yeah. So when I was searching on Amazon, I think there was another book I wanted, and I checked the listing for our book on Amazon, and when I typed in Copper Hollow, not only did our book come up, but somebody with a steampunk book of the exact same name came up also. And that was when my curiosity was piqued. And so it turns out there's a book out there by this Richard M. Eunice thing, called the Copper Hollow Chronicles, which is pretty much an exact copy of our book title, Copper Hollow, and the Cinnabury Chronicles. So instead of being the Cinnabury Chronicles, it's the Copper Hollow Chronicles, which just seems extraordinary, to be honest.
Yeah, like the likelihood that somebody would make a steampunk novel called the Copper Hollow Chronicles. So we published in October, within the year.
Within a
year of
about
us
7 months.
Publishing this. And I want to point out that we were writing this for such an awfully long time. I mean, too long, really. And we even put it down for, I want to say, a few years.
Yeah, we've been developing this for years. Yeah.
This is very much before AI even existed, right? We were writing this.
Yeah.
Then for within the year to have somebody copy it, and the art to me looks AI. The whole thing is giving AI.
Yeah. There's no doubt that the cover is also the AI. Yeah. I mean, the other thing about this author, so when I looked at this author and looked their books that they had previously released, I found that there were actually dozens of books of lots of different genres and types, including non-fiction and fiction, all released within 2 months. So that clearly set out that this was somebody's using AI, or they've gotten AI to write entire loads of books and not even barely looked at them, because 2 months is a really compressed time frame to release so many. Yeah. Maybe they were sitting on a backlog of certain amount, but 3 dozen is a lot.
I mean, it's insane the amount that this person has created. And the video that I posted, it went like really big on TikTok. Like it blew up. I was never expecting that kind of response. And you know what? Here's the thing as well. If it was called The Copper Hollow Chronicles and it was, let's say, a crime novel, or even like a romance novel, then I would, like, we genuinely wouldn't have any problem with this. There's already a few novels like with Copper Hollow in the title. That's actually fine. It's just that when it's set in a steampunk world, when there's several similarities, it feels like they are purposely trying to copy us. And what I said in the video, I said AI has stole our book, right? And what I mean by that is that it's not being necessarily copied verbatim, but it's the kind of stealing someone does when they're selling a knockoff Gucci bag that breaks in a few days. It's trying to sell itself off of our work. You know, it's copied us in the attempt to steal our readership.
100%, yeah. I think there's no doubt about that this isn't an accident.
Yeah.
This seems overwhelmingly to be some sort of plagiarism. As you said, we don't know the contents. From the blurb, it seems that the book is at least somewhat different, but even within that there are similarities, and we'll go into them in a future episode. I think we'll probably have a few breakdowns of this situation over the course of the coming weeks, because it is really a nuisance for us. But I think that, as you said, if it was different, especially the title, we wouldn't really have a problem with it.
No, we wouldn't.
And it really just seems like they've targeted us. Now, there's two possibilities. We've kind of been thinking about this a lot, and I'm sure we'll try and get into this more.
So there's two theories. There's one where someone found our book and just decided to copy it. Or there's two where someone asked AI for a steampunk novel and the AI took our title and some of our concepts. Those are the only ways I can see that this has happened. But either way, somebody is trying to just generate books here.
Yeah. Yes. Either way, I think they've used AI, and either way, I think they've referenced our book at the very least.
Yeah.
If not attempted to copy.
Absolutely. So yeah, this is a big problem for us. We're trying to figure out how to move forward with this, and we will go into it even deeper in future episodes.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more to come with regards to this situation. I mean, we're still just figuring it out and what to do next, and try and get some help and see how big a problem this is as well, because how many people how many small authors who are especially self-published are having their work plagiarized or made facsimile of.
Exactly. It's very concerning. Like this whole thing is just such a worry for small indie authors and artists, and I know a lot of artists have had their work stolen, and we're all just trying to deal with this technology that's probably come on a little bit too fast and a little bit too eager, and we aren't really ready for it yet. Yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm pro or anti-AI. Generally speaking, I think AI is running amok and is a really bad thing. And largely speaking, it's been used for almost the worst purposes by the worst interests. But I'm not a Luddite. I'm not entirely against the idea of using AI for certain tasks. But when it comes to creative works, this is just out of control.
Yeah, I mean, when you're generating things like that, I think it is problematic. I mean, I'm not on board with people using this to create art, because you're not creating anything really. You're
absolutely. What's the art without the human element and without the communication between two human beings?
The whole joy of making art is the journey. It's not the actual end product. The joy of creating something is in the creating, not in the having the thing. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So yeah. Anyway, catch us next week. We'll try and go into this further.
Yeah, we're going to go into a lot more next week as we get our bearings and we decide what to do next and get more information on this Richard and Eunice character.
See you then.
See you then. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. This episode was written, produced and performed by R. Finn and P. Rose. Thank you to Alex Grohl, who created the music within this episode. If you would like to support the Cinderbury Chronicles and our writing, please consider sharing this episode or purchasing a copy of Copper Hollow available on Amazon or Kindle. If Copper Hollow is not available in your region, please contact us at copperhollowbook@gmail.com. Your time, engagement and feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for listening.